In my last update, I put in shade covers to fight the sun and heat. But I still had the front sections of the long beds to cover, and the collards were taking a beating, so I needed to do something quick. And then I realized I already had 2 pieces of rebar in the ground to reinforce the middle of the beds. Why not use 1/2-inch PVC pipe and slide it over the rebar to create a mini polytunnel for shade? I already had 2 other rebar pieces from another project, so off I went to buy the PVC pipe to see if it would work. I guess you could say this was a test of concept. Once I got the PVC pipe over the rebar and then bent it without breaking it, I knew my idea had legs. If you're thinking of trying something similar, you don't need rebar, just U-clamps that are cheaper and will attach to wood or metal with the right screws. Then my next step was to get the 2 extra pieces of rebar into the ground to attach the second PVC section. I used the back of a hatchet to give myself plenty of striking power. It went in easy enough on both sides. And then I was able to slide the second PVC pipe over the rebar. That done, I measured the distance between the 2 for the length of shading I needed. Just a side note, a friend of mine told me she's using an old sheet for shading, and it seems to be working. I got out my sewing machine and did a 2-inch sleeve to slide over the pipe. It didn't have to be perfect, just hold the pipe in place. One thing I hadn't counted on was the heat causing the weed barrier to become tacky and stuck to the PVC pipe. But with a little coaxing, I got it on. Once I got on the front section, it was a matter of positioning for the best covering. And then while moving it around, I realized I probably needed to make a second covering to shade more of the collards. You can see how tight the PVC pipe is on the rebar, so I don't think I'll need to worry about heavy thunderstorm winds. And this time, I did a 3-inch seam for more sliding room for the pipe inside the sleeve. And there I had a mini polytunnel shade cover that would shelter the collards from the heat of the day. and also give them room to grow higher and still allow me clear access to harvest. I took a step back to review the garden layout, and all that remained was to fix another frame for the second bed around the sunflowers. The next day was particularly hot, so I waited until the early evening to install the next frame. I had finally run out of weed barrier, so I had to remove a section from the cucumbers and install the last short piece over the top of that bed, and then begin to staple the shading over the frame and away from the sunflowers. With that done, I was now ready for the aggressive Florida sun. The second phase of my heat strategy was succession planting. Rather than planting more of the same, I did a little research looking for plants that were heat tolerant. This was the list I came up with. I particularly like the idea of black-eyed peas because they thrive in hot weather and are extremely drought tolerant, so I wouldn't need to water them as often. They produce lots of flowers to draw in pollinators and have the added bonus of nitrogen fixing within 3 weeks of germination. I already had cabbage and peppers in addition to a couple of sweet potatoes that were ready to be planted, and settled on watermelon despite its longer growing season because I'm in 9B, so I have time. But to speed up germination, I soaked the peas and the watermelon seeds overnight, and then I was ready to go. I put black-eyed peas everywhere. This way, I could harvest and fix the soil for winter planting at the same time. The pest-resistant watermelon would share a bed with the summer squash to complete my succession planting. Oh yes, here is the latest addition to the garden. I got a banana plant. My local nursery lowered the price on them, and I like the fact this one already had 2 pups. I have a nice large container I'll transplant it into to round out the garden. I feel a lot more prepared for the hot summer weather to come. See you next time.